Nigeria is entering a new moment. A moment the government did not plan for. A moment they can no longer ignore. For months, Nnamdi Kanu has been locked away. Life sentence. Moved to Sokoto prison. Cut off. Hidden. Forgotten by many, but not by everyone. But something is changing. Quiet meetings. Soft movements. Private talks inside Abuja. Talks that point to one truth. Keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison forever is becoming harder than releasing him. Not because the government wants to look weak. Not because they suddenly feel sorry for him. But because the pressure around them is rising from all sides. Nigeria has entered a period where every decision carries weight. Every move by the government is watched closely. Every policy is questioned. And in the middle of all this, one case stands out more than any other: Nnamdi Kanu. His imprisonment was meant to close a chapter, but instead, it opened a deeper one. The government thought the sentence would calm the tension. They believed that moving him to Sokoto would send a strong message. They believed silence would follow. But silence is not what they received. Something is shifting quietly across the system. Not loud. Not wild. But steady. Every week, new reports cross the tables of people in power. Reports that show the same pattern: his case keeps coming back. It refuses to fade. It refuses to become old news. It refuses to settle. Inside top offices, key officials speak in low tones. They speak with caution. They speak with fear of being misunderstood. But the message is clear between them. The situation around him is not weakening. It is building. The government expected fatigue. Instead, they are seeing renewed attention. They expected the movement around him to lose strength. Instead, they are seeing more organization. They expected his story to die down slowly. Instead, they are seeing it rise again in different forms. And now, the same government that appeared firm is beginning to face the truth they never wanted to admit. Keeping him locked away is starting to create more problems than releasing him. This is the shift. It is not happening on television. It is not happening in the newspapers. It is happening in the background, where real political decisions are made. There are late-night calls between officials who once believed the case was settled. There are quiet messages passed between government actors who no longer see the imprisonment as a long-term solution. There are lawyers who now advise caution. There are diplomats who bring the topic back to the table gently but firmly. The pressure is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is steady, consistent, and rising. And that steady rise is what Abuja fears the most. Because pressure that grows slowly is harder to control. You cannot dismiss it. You cannot fight it publicly without creating more waves. You cannot pretend it is not there. And this is the exact type of pressure surrounding Nnamdi Kanu's case right now. The government also understands something deeper. The political environment has changed. Nigeria is more sensitive today. Every region feels something. Every group is watching. Every decision sends a message. And at a time like this, Nnamdi Kanu's imprisonment sends a message the government no longer wants to send. They want calm. But the imprisonment creates tension. They want unity. But the imprisonment creates division. They want control. But the imprisonment creates unpredictability. This is why the silent shift is real. Those in charge are beginning to see that the longer he stays behind bars, the more complex the national atmosphere becomes. Even those who once insisted he must remain imprisoned for life are now asking new questions, not because they changed their beliefs, but because the situation around them is forcing them to think differently. Some officials feel uneasy. Some feel uncertain. Some feel trapped by a decision they can no longer defend comfortably. And deep inside the government, there is a growing realization that Nnamdi Kanu's fate is not only a legal matter. It is tied to security, politics, diplomacy, and national balance. This realization is pushing the quiet shift forward. And no matter how hard the system tries to hide it, the signs are there. Meetings that never used to include his name now include it. Reports that never used to mention him now mention him. People who never used to speak about him now raise questions. Nobody is shouting these things in public. But in private rooms, inside official buildings, among people with real decision-making power, the conversation is happening. And that conversation has one direction. Finding a way out. Finding a new approach. Finding a path that ends with his release. This is the silent shift. The turning of the wheel. The slow movement of a system that once believed everything was settled. It is not settled anymore. Not for the government. Not for the country. Not for those who keep watch. And that is why the story is changing. Behind closed doors, top officials are looking at one hard reality. Nnamdi Kanu's case is no longer just a court issue. It is now a security issue, a political issue, and a national stability issue. And the deeper they look, the more they see problems they cannot easily solve. For the government, keeping him locked up was supposed to bring control. It was supposed to calm the atmosphere. It was supposed to create a sense of order. But instead, it has done the opposite. His imprisonment is now linked to tension in places where the government desperately needs calm. The southeast remains uneasy. Leaders from the region find themselves caught in the middle. They keep asking for dialogue. They keep asking for understanding. They keep asking for a new direction. But they cannot do much because every conversation returns to one fixed point. What about Nnamdi Kanu? Every governor, every traditional leader, every key figure sent to speak to the people comes back with the same message. The region cannot fully settle until his matter is addressed. This is the first quiet problem. It is not shouted on the news. It is not written clearly in reports. But it shows in everyday life. It shows in the mood of the region. It shows in the struggle to maintain peace for more than a few days. Security teams know this too. Officers who work on the ground understand the deeper link between stability and his situation. They know tension rises whenever his name enters public discussion. They know criminal groups use his imprisonment as a tool. They know young people feel deep emotion around his treatment. So even though the government wanted a solution, what they have created is a long-term challenge that grows in silence. The second quiet problem is even harder for the government to control. Nigeria is under pressure from many different directions. The economy is tight. The political environment is restless. Foreign partners are asking questions. Investors are nervous. Communities feel stressed. And when a country is already struggling, the government usually tries to remove any issue that can spark more trouble. But in this case, they cannot remove it quickly. They cannot ignore it. They cannot pretend it does not matter. Nnamdi Kanu's imprisonment is a spark that refuses to die. It is small enough to hide but big enough to create heat. And the heat comes back again and again, especially when things in the country start to shake. Officials in Abuja now understand something they did not expect. Every month he stays in prison adds more weight to an already heavy national situation. This is not a matter of sympathy. This is not a matter of emotion. This is pure strategy. Political planners worry that allowing the case to drag on will continue to divide citizens. They fear that the government will look stubborn at a time when they need to appear flexible. They fear that opposition groups will use the matter as a powerful campaign point. And they fear that international partners will keep raising concerns that Nigeria does not want to address publicly. There is also another issue. The legal process is becoming harder to defend. Lawyers around the system, even those who do not support him, now admit that the longer the case stays unsolved, the more questions people ask. Questions about fair hearing. Questions about constitutional rights. Questions about political influence. Questions that the government cannot answer confidently without creating more debates. And when a government begins to lose the narrative around a case, the case becomes more fragile. This is happening now. The third quiet problem is the pressure from outside the country. Human rights groups. International observers. Diplomatic partners. They are not shouting loudly, but they are watching. They send private notes. They ask questions in quiet meetings. They remind Nigeria of previous agreements. They push for dialogue, not punishment. They want a political solution, not a permanent imprisonment. These groups understand that his continued detention feeds unrest. They understand that even if people disagree with his views, his case carries emotional weight across communities. And they understand that Nigeria's global image is affected by how this case ends. Every time Nigeria attends an international meeting, this topic appears somehow. Sometimes direct, sometimes in coded language. But it appears. And each appearance adds pressure. The government does not like this type of pressure. It is quiet. It is diplomatic. It is persistent. And it does not go away. The fourth quiet problem is the future. Nigeria wants unity. Nigeria wants peace. Nigeria wants progress. But there is a heavy truth inside the system. As long as Nnamdi Kanu remains in prison for life, unity will always be harder. Not impossible, but harder. National unity cannot grow when one major region feels unheard. Political harmony cannot expand when one high-profile case keeps inflaming emotions. Long-term stability cannot strengthen when one decision continues to divide the country. Officials know this. They feel it. They see it in every regional meeting, every security briefing, every negotiation. And it forces them to admit a reality they once rejected. The imprisonment is no longer serving the country's long-term interest. The problems it creates are now larger than the problems it was meant to solve. This is why conversations are changing. This is why tone is shifting. This is why government actors are now considering options they once refused to discuss. The quiet problems are becoming loud inside the walls of power. And with every passing week, the pressure grows. Now here is the part people do not understand. Life imprisonment does not always mean he dies in prison. In politics, a life sentence rarely means the end. It usually means until something bigger changes. And right now, something bigger is already moving slowly through the system. The government knows they cannot simply wake up one morning and say, he is free. They need a path that makes sense. They need a plan that protects them. They need a reason the public will accept. They need a strategy that prevents backlash. And they need a solution that still allows them to claim control. This is why they are building something quietly, a soft exit, a legal door, a political window, a controlled process. Step by step, high-level negotiators have returned to the table. Leaders from the southeast have renewed their pressure. Diplomats are applying quiet weight from the outside. And intelligence officials are advising the government that keeping him locked up may create more security risks in the long run. All these movements are gentle, but they are powerful when combined. Behind the scenes, the system is preparing the type of solution that governments use when they want to change direction without admitting defeat. They want to say, his release is part of the peace process. Not we made a mistake. Not we were wrong. But this is the best path for national stability. That is the language they plan to use. This is how sensitive political cases usually end, not with noise, but with strategy. Not with force, but with calculation. And the calculation has already begun. Legal teams have started reviewing old documents. Advisors are drafting possible frameworks. Security agencies are assessing public response. And senior officials are weighing the benefits of a controlled release against the dangers of holding him forever. The truth is simple. The government wants an exit that does not shake the country. And the country wants an exit that does not feel like surrender. Both sides need the same thing, stability. For the government, allowing him to remain in Sokoto for life is no longer a sign of strength. It is becoming a burden. It drains political capital. It complicates regional peace. It gives opponents something to use against them. And it creates tension they do not need during economic hardship. Releasing him under structured conditions, however, gives them a different type of power. It allows them to say they chose peace. It allows them to take credit for reducing national tension. It allows them to appear strategic, not weak. That is why the breakthrough is coming. But the breakthrough will not be loud. It will not be televised. It will not be announced during a heated moment. It will come quietly, the way sensitive political decisions always come. It will come through paperwork, private signatures, internal approvals, and a well-prepared statement that has been reviewed 100 times. At the same time, leaders from the Southeast understand their role. They know they must guide the public reaction. They know they must show maturity when the moment arrives. They know they must push for calm so the release does not create new conflict. This cooperation, between regions, between government departments, between diplomatic teams, is what forms the breakthrough. And that cooperation is already happening. What most people do not see is the shift happening inside the security and intelligence community. These are the people who study risks. They look at trends. They monitor patterns. They advise the presidency and top offices. And they are saying something very clear. Keeping him locked up does not help national security anymore. Releasing him under the right structure may actually reduce tensions. This type of advice is not ignored. It shapes decisions. It changes direction. It forces a long-term view. For the first time in years, the security argument is leaning toward release, not imprisonment. That alone changes everything. There is also the international factor. Nigeria understands that global partners want a political settlement. They want dialogue. They want an approach that protects human rights and respects national unity. They want stability in a region that already faces many challenges. And these partners have influence. Nigeria listens when influence is applied correctly. This is why the breakthrough is no longer a dream or guesswork. It is a growing reality. A release will not be emotional. It will not be dramatic. It will be structured. Likely through legal adjustments. Possibly through political resolution. Certainly through a method that maintains government dignity. And when it happens, the message will be clear. This is for peace. This is for unity. This is for the future. Whether people agree or disagree, the direction of the story is already shifting. What once seemed impossible is now becoming the most realistic path forward. Nnamdi Kanu's fate will not be sealed inside Sokoto. It will be decided through strategy, pressure, negotiation, and national interest. And as things stand today, all those forces are moving toward one conclusion. He will not remain behind those walls forever. The system is preparing a soft landing. And the breakthrough is closer than most people think.